Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Sindhu Blume.
And I'm Scott McCandless. It is the week of September 25th, and this is your Monday briefing.
Scott, I think the theme of this week is down to the wire. What's going on with the government shutdown?
Sindhu, that's right. The House and Senate are scheduled to be in session Tuesday through Friday this week and will need to take action to avoid a government shutdown ahead of the September 30th end of the fiscal year. There was an unsuccessful attempt last week to complete a short-term continuing resolution, or CR, to prevent a shutdown, but there might be other legislative vehicles to get there this week. We're tracking that closely as the implications are far-reaching, not only for government employees, but for government services and the broader economy.
Thanks for that, Scott. And now I want to turn to the IRS and its guidance process. And joining us to talk about that is Wade Sutton. Wade, welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks.
So before we get into the details of particular guidance, can you walk us through the reg writing process?
Sure. I mean, the priorities for what gets worked on, that's set at a political level. On the long term, that's in the priority guidance plan that the IRS publishes quarterly, but more immediate near term, that's from the White House occasionally, but more often from the political appointees in the Treasury Department. And so right now, that is, all CAMT. That's the focus of this administration, Inflation Reduction Act, which includes CAMT. And then at the ground level, the non-political career folks at the Chief Counsel's Office of the IRS and the Office of Tax Policy are the ones that are writing the regulations. And that's, weekly, sometimes bi-weekly meetings where you're sorting through issues. You've got deadlines you've got to meet, and you're just trying to hash through the regulations as quickly as you can to get it out on time.
Wade, you mentioned the CAMT, and we've got some recent guidance on that, which is actually the fourth piece of guidance, I believe, on CAMT since its enactment last year. But even with this recent guidance, there's still a lot of questions. So when might we see more on CAMT?
Sure, we're hopeful by the end of this year, but I think people appreciate that CAMT is a massive undertaking because you're taking these financial accounting concepts and then porting them into the tax code. And we're all getting up to speed and learning, and I think the government's doing that as well. So in my space, there's some big important issues that we're waiting on, hopefully by the end of the year. But the drop dead date would be, I think it's February 16th of 2024, which is 18 months from the enactment of the Inflation Reduction Act. And that's important because if you get the regulations proposed by then, you can make them retroactively effective to when the statute was passed.
Same question for the Section 174 guidance. When do you anticipate that being?
Comments are due by November, which I think means it will be very tough to process those comments and get guidance out by the end of the year. But we're hoping first quarter of 2024, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
And moving to foreign tax credit regulations, we've got some guidance or some hint that they might extend some taxpayer-friendly relief in future guidance. There might even be some FTC guidance related to Pillar 2 issues. What can you tell us about when that might come out?
Sure. So we understand, I guess backing up, the final regulations that were issued a couple of years back were giving some outcomes that bothered some taxpayers, and the government was trying to work to fix. But I think instead of doing narrow, targeted surgical fixes, they just decided just to go back to the old rules for at least the next 2 years. And we understand that that has created some issues for fiscal year taxpayers who don't adhere to a calendar year. And so we're maybe in recognition of that, we're expecting at least another year of deferral on the final regulations. When we'll see that, hopefully by the end of the year. There's another FTC package that is rumored to be in the works that's going to address the creditability of Pillar 2 taxes. And so that should come out with a deferral notice, is our understanding.
All right. And finally, what is on your horizon? You're talking to companies and there are things that you're focused on. So what are the maybe 3 to 5 things that you're anticipating?
Sure. There's been a lot of talk about the PTEP, previously taxed earnings regulations. There was a recent announcement 2 weeks ago that those are not going to come out this year. So we're hopeful they'll come out first quarter of 2024. So watch for that. That'll be a very big, important reg package that's likely followed on by an additional package. CAMT, there's still some very significant issues in the international space that we're all waiting on. A big one is potential double counting of earnings that you've heard a lot about. Is the government close to guidance on that? I don't actually think so. In the recent notice we got, there was actually a request for comments, which to me suggests they're still struggling to get their arms around a solution. 987, foreign currency guidance, we're expecting that pretty soon. And I think those are the big major issues that companies are watching and paying attention to.
Okay, Wade, thank you.
Thank you.
And for our viewers, in case you missed it, included in the email with this episode is the latest Week in Review with Janice Mays, as well as 2 special episodes, one on the Campty Notice and one on climate risk modeling. Stay tuned for another Week in Review this Friday.
And thank you as always for tuning in. Stay with Policy on Demand for the latest developments from Washington and around the world. Take care.